All right, me and Beds are joined by Chris George, the founder, president, and CEO of CMG Financial. Chris, thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome, Randy. Thanks for having me today. Super excited.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've been at CMG for about 6 weeks now, Beds? 5-6 weeks?
Yeah, it's actually, I kind of finally feel like I know what I'm doing now, which is pretty great.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. And we were talking, we're like, I'm just going to invite Chris George on the podcast. We send this out to our referral partners, friends, family, people we hope to do business with. I'm like, why not? And then I shot you that email. You called me back, and here we are.
Well, as I have mentioned before, I can't find myself ever getting comfortable on video, but I mentioned that my dad said I have a face for radio, so I think I'm prepared for that. So
we all do. So thanks again. There's so much to talk about. It's been an awesome experience for us since we joined, but I wanted to get a little bit of background. I read some stuff about how CMG was founded, but why don't you bring us back to the beginning, if you don't mind?
Yeah, happy to. This is the 42nd year I've been in the mortgage industry. It's all I've ever done. I started when I was 19 years old, much like everybody else that falls into, I think, frankly, either mortgage or even real estate sales. It's not a place that you say, hey, someday I'm going to be a loan officer. I think, the gravitational pull of this business is pretty interesting, and you get an opportunity to do some pretty amazing things. And if you do your job well, you make a big difference in people's lives. And if you do it poorly, well, you can make a negative big difference in people's lives. And quickly, early on, I enjoyed the aha moment of a first-time home buyer saying, hey, I can't believe that I'm going to, be able to be a homeowner. And by the way, a first-time home buyer doesn't always mean it's a young person. It can be a person that's 55 years old that suddenly figured out a way to become a homeowner. All the way to, theoretically, the last-time home buyer, somebody that says, hey, listen, I want to figure out a way to use the equity in my home to be able to retire and maybe not worry about making payments any longer for a period of time, like a reverse mortgage, or a variety of other things that you can use the equity in your home for, from starting a family to starting a business. And so I enjoyed that entire gamut of being able to do this business. The other thing about this industry, which is interesting and applies to me, which is indicative of my background, you don't really need a lot of skill to be in the mortgage industry. It requires...
Really?
So what I mean by that statement is that, look, I'm the guy that flunked his way out of high school. I was unqualified for just about any job, and my math skills in high school were horrible. So, of course, going into the mortgage industry is a perfect fit for me. So look, I earn my job every single day. I tell people I'm the least qualified to be the president of a company, but every day I figure out a way to do what I'm supposed to do to take care of the folks that work at the company. There's about 3,500 employees that work here. But even further, I'm a loan officer in my heart of hearts, so I take calls from loan officers all over the United States trying to figure out ways to craft a transaction that's responsible and sustainable for someone to be able to be in a particular loan type. As I grew through the process, I started my own company when I was 26 in 1988. I sold that company in 1993 and started CMG in my garage with 5 other employees, 2 of which still work for us. We're a 31-year overnight success, and I like what I do. I mean, I love what I do. There's an old saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, and that's who I am. Lastly, I'm the former chairman of the California Mortgage Bankers Association and the former chairman of the National Mortgage Bankers Association. That doesn't mean anything other than the fact that I got to know the president of Fannie and the president of Freddie and the president of Wells and Citi and Chase and B of A, and been in and out of the White House a couple of times. I got to testify in front of Congress, and I wasn't in an orange jumpsuit, which was great. And so,
what was that like, Chris?
Yeah.
Was that like a high pressure? I just had to pivot for a second. What's that like?
I've never done it, and it's American royalty is our elected officials. So, and I know you guys said we got to stay away from the third rail here, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, but it just so surprises me how much power we give to our elected officials and how much power they take. But in the course of the conversation, I was having a very candid conversation with this one Congress man up in Oregon. And he says, so Mr. George, the discussion is about whether or not we should limit certain compensation for both bankers and brokers. That's the topic.
Yep.
And he decides he wants to talk about why we're not building as many new homes in the United States that we should be. So he's asking me a question that's completely off of what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And so I said, and so the people behind me are freaking out because they're from the Mortgage Bankers Association, like, oh, we let Chris George get into the open water and he's free to, do what he wants to do. And so my answer was, I said, number one, I think there's a lot of red tape locally that is tough for people to build homes affordably. And not forget about the cost of the land or whatever. There's just a lot of difficulty and a lot of rules that, frankly, are a little too severe to allow people to be able to build an affordable home. So they end up building homes in a slightly higher price structure, which doesn't really account for the people that are trying to get into their first time homebuyer world. Number one. I said, number two, I don't think there's enough people to build homes, and we don't teach people how to be carpenters and electricians and plumbers anymore because, we let them spend $120,000 to get, a political science education that's a completely useless degree, and then they go and get a job for 50 grand a year and takes them 7 or 10 years to pay off all their debt. And then last but not least, I think financial literacy is in the basement. I think we got to start that a lot sooner. I think we ought to start teaching people about responsibility associated with their checking account and how to buy a home and how to save money and all that kind of stuff and the benefit of home ownership.
Mhm.
And he's looking at me and he's smiling and he said, well, I got to be honest with you. Thank you for the candor because I'm asking you a question that you're completely unprepared for.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested in continuing the conversation if you want offline out, not in a public environment. I said, that'd be great. Fast forward, he ended up stopped being a congressman, went back to his day job. He's a builder, and he's now one of our builders up in Oregon. We do business with him all the time. So, yeah, well, the people from the NBA says, Chris George, you're the only person to testify in front of Congress and come away with business. Which worked out well for me. So anyway, we're a family-run organization. I have 4 boys that work for the company. All 4 of them have different capacities. One's in charge of capital markets. One's in charge of marketing. The other 2 are loan officers around the United States. My third son, Harrison's number 20 in the company. That's a big deal. There's 1,500 loan officers here. We have a lot of different mission statements and value propositions. Every company has them. They're in some picture frame on the wall in their lobby. We have a mantra. Our mantra is every customer, every time, no exceptions, no excuses. And to me, every customer, every time, no exceptions, no excuses sounds a lot like don't settle. And I say this to the 2 of you guys. I say it to all of our loan officers in the company. Listen, you get paid to fight hard on behalf of your client. Everyone can do the 850 FICO rate term refi, 38% loan to value, 19 DTI. Everybody can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's charging after those loans. And by the way, those are price-centric loans. Those are people that have qualified for the absolute best our industry can bring to them. But the first-time home buyer that's having a tough time, being able to raise their enough down payment to be able to buy a home, or a property that has an issue with it, or the income of a nurse that used to be a local nurse and now she's a traveling nurse and you can't qualify her because there are specific rules as it relates to variable income, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
That's what you guys get paid to do. And honestly, real estate's a community event. So nobody buys real estate all by themselves, even if they're buying it cash. There's a whole bunch of people that still have to come together in order for you to buy a piece of property, even if it's cash. We think lending's a community event. There's so many different hands that are on the wheel at one point or another when you're going through the process of closing a transaction. We believe that all tools, all available resources ought to be at your disposal as a loan officer to serve your customer. And I'm one of those. I'm one of those available resources. I'm one of those tools that can help you smooth through the process when you're running into a bit of an obstacle, or in the builder in Oregon, taking advantage of the opportunity.
Yep. Could you ever imagine? Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Well, 2008 is an interesting area for me. I listened to a podcast that you were on. What was that like? Because you're talking about fighting for the customer. You fought for your business, which ultimately, here we are all these years later, you have all these employees. What was that like?
I'll pull up my sleeves and I'll show you all the scars. I mean, I'll tell you a quick fast story real fast. On the Saturday after Thanksgiving in November of 2008, I'm sitting in my office here trying to figure out a way to basically save the company and save my house. We live on a ranch in Northern California, about 1,100 acres. It's a cattle and bison ranch.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys ever come out to Northern California, let me know. I'm happy to give you a tour. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm literally trying to figure out a way to save the farm, right? I'm thinking to myself, we're about 100 and 1,520 employees at the time. And so we had this Armageddon plan where we're going to crank the company down to 10. We had looked at what we were going to lose in November of 2028, what we were going to lose in December of 2028, and we figured we'd run out of money in February of 29, not 2028, 2008, 2009. And so we decided we were just going to let everybody go right after Thanksgiving, the first part of December, and only have 10 employees in the company, and I was going to be one of them. So, and if you guys remember, on November 27th of 2008, the United States government decided they'd get into the business of buying mortgage-backed securities, and air came back into our industry.
Yeah.
So in the month of December, we worked every single day, and we had 2 shifts working during that period of time. In a month, I thought I was going to lose $231,000. I ended up making $13,000, which is a hell of a lot better than losing $228, right? But so the bottom line is that we dug our way out of the cellar, and my theory was it didn't matter how much money I was going to borrow because I knew I would pay it back someday. Even if I got thrown out of the mortgage industry, I was going to figure out a way to pay it back someday. And we borrowed millions of dollars. And some of the interest rates we borrowed money at would just spin your head off your body. We borrowed money where the interest rate was more than 200%. And so it didn't matter because people weren't lending to me. You know, back in 2008 and 2009, an independent mortgage banker wasn't a good, credible borrower, right? I mean, you just wouldn't make money to us because they weren't sure they were going to be around for another month. How did we make it out? We had some amazing employees that stuck by us. We had several employees come up to us and say, "Don't pay me. You don't need to pay me anymore. I've got money. I know you don't. So just catch me up in a few months. Just don't pay us right now." We had several employees saying that we'll be happy to work night shifts. We'll be happy to work weekend shifts. But one of my second in command, Kim Callis, who just retired, she's been with the company for 25 years, was probably working a solid 15, maybe 17 hours a day, every day. So slowly we dug our way out. We ended up finally getting to a place where we paid everybody back and kind of was trying to decide what we were going to do again. And people were asking me, you know, are you happy at where you are? We were making a couple $100,000 a month now. And, you know, I got Fridays off and I'm thinking I went through this near death experience. I don't know that I want to do this again. But to be honest with you guys, I really felt like I was an Indianapolis 500 car running around a dirt track. I just felt like I wasn't doing what I was built to do. Mm-hmm. So we went back at it, and we became a leader in HARP when that came out. Mm-hmm. We innovated a lot of our technology and a lot of our marketing, which you guys are the beneficiaries of. We continue to remain who we are. We don't want to be something that we aren't. We like how we treat one another. We love how we treat our customer. We love the transparency, the honesty. I love hard work. My dad used to say hard work works, and so we think that's an important component. And here we are today. We're number 9 in the United States. We're the only lender in the United States that grew their market share year over year from 22 to 23. We're doing that again this year, much to the help of you two gentlemen, a whole bunch of folks like you. We have a huge foundation called the CMG Foundation. We give a lot of money back to 3 separate organizations. We give a lot of money back to what's called the MBA Opens Doors Foundation, which pays for the mortgage payment or the rental payment for parents that have terminally or critically ill children. We are the number 1 largest contributor to that organization. I think we're number 4 or 5 for the Gary Sinise Foundation, which builds specialized homes for returning veterans that have been injured in line of duty, folks that have been injured as first responders. And then lastly, because cancer affects all of us, either personally or family or friends, we're a big supporter of an organization here in the Bay Area called the Cancer Support Community. Mm-hmm. So once a year, we put on a big event. We auction off a bunch of wine and a bunch of trips. And about 4 hours, we raise about $1 million, and we distribute that out to these groups. So, you know, we have a little corner of the world, and we're trying to do right by that little corner.
It's crazy to hear you talk about 2008 and going down to almost 10 employees, and just to think that that's not that long ago. It really isn't. And you've been in business for 30 years, and that's probably like the halfway point. How do you go from just almost 10 employees to 3,500 employees? And it sounds like it's, you know, the people that were willing to work for free and stuff, but you know, that's pretty impressive to go from that to 3,500 people number 9th in the country. What would you attribute that to?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, I think I've already mentioned it. We're just incredibly blessed to have amazing people that work for the company. I mean, just dedicated people. For an organization that's been in business for 31 years, we have people that have worked here for 25, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. We have people that have been here almost from day one. We have a number of people that just pour their heart and soul into the company. We like to think that we're a big company that's masquerading as a little company or a medium-sized company. Every company's bigger than your company is, right? I mean, we're a little company in comparison to Rocket. Rocket's a little company in comparison to Microsoft. So I think that for us, we try to be very present, very accountable. We try to be available. We try to be practical and pragmatic. We're not, I mean, look, for a guy that, like I said, I kind of flunked my way out of high school. I don't have a lot of fancy words. I just have like the words I have. And I try to speak very plainly, and I try to deliver on what I say we're going to do. I mean, so for instance, this week I got a call from a loan officer, and she's down in Texas, and she says, okay, I'm going to start this conversation out with, I made a mistake. I said, okay, what happened? I calculated this person's income wrong. It would get all the way through the process. It got delayed, and now it's supposed to close tomorrow. This call was happening on Tuesday.
Yep.
And now I have to inform my borrower that they are not qualified. And again, it's one of those rare scenarios where this person was moving from being a nurse, local nurse, to a traveling nurse, and you can't count all their income when they move in that job. It's just the rules today.
Yep.
And so, long story made short, and it was a domino type one in a series of 4 transactions that have to close, and everybody's in this small town in Texas, and everybody knows Chris, and it's the moment this thing doesn't close, his reputation going to be obliterated, and so will the agent. It's all that kind of thing. So we did the loan. It's our money. It's our capital. We're doing the loans. An unsaleable loan. We're not going to be able to sell the loans. A 97% loan to value, what would be normally a home ready type loan. But we did the loan. Got a very nice note from her. I got a very nice note from the realtor, but the borrower is none the wiser. The borrower's a good borrower, by the way, and she makes the money that we said she made. It's just the way the rules are. She can't qualify today. She would qualify in about 5 more months when she's been on the job for 2 years. So what does that mean? It means we're a company that we think like that. So this is a loan officer having a conversation with the president of the company, and the president of the company picking up the phone and saying, we're funding this loan. Now, at Norcom, that would have happened all the time because that's who Phil is. He's a very available kind of guy. But at companies of our size, even a company smaller than us, that has never happened. Yeah. All of my counterparts laugh at me and say, wait a second, you actually talk to loan officers all the time. I like them. I think like them. I really respect the value proposition of a loan officer. I enjoy that conversation. I like hitting the curveball. I like working hard. So I think one of the ways that we also are successful is we just don't look at everything as some one broad brush. I think that there's no one size fits all in the mortgage industry. And so when you bring me something, I say to you, hey, Randy, hey, Chris, what do I know what to bring to you? I don't know, man. Bring me something that makes sense to you. Why is this a good loan? Well, it's a good loan for the following reasons. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. We agree. We're going to take some of the company collateral and company profit and our savings, and we're going to put it into this loan. Great, thank you very much. So to me, that nimbleness and that agility makes a big difference in today's marketplace. And those are many of the reasons that we somehow navigated from being 100 employees to 3,500 employees. I think people respond to that. I think they like knowing that there's a company behind you that has your back. Even when you screw up, we have your back.
Yeah, that's incredible. One thing I've been telling people since we joined is that I feel like I can say yes to everything too. That's probably not the right way to put it, but people come to me with all these problem files, and it's like, yes, we can do that. I've already closed a couple loans that I don't know that I would have been able to close before. I have a few more in my pipeline that I don't know that I would have been able to do before. It just seems like CMG is very focused on solutions for people and making deals happen. So I've been very impressed by that.
We have a group of loan officers that are coming over from a bank. And this particular group of loan officers used to work with one of my regional managers at another company and left and went to work for the bank because of this product. I think it's an ITIN product. So a temporary identification number for people that are coming to work here under a temporary work visa. So my regional manager sent it to me and said, can we replicate this product? This started on Monday of this week, by the way. So they're working on it right now. Tomorrow, they're going to make a presentation. So it started Monday. On Friday, they're going to make a presentation to me to see if we can do this and how much we need to allocate of the company's capital to do so. And we're going to make a decision tomorrow on a brand new product that's never been done before in 5 days. So I just think that's really, not a lot of companies innovate and not a lot of companies support and encourage that activity. Hey, bring me something new and let's talk about it. Most companies like, yeah, I don't want to do anything to do with that because, I don't understand it. And I don't want to take company capital and put it against it. We're on the other side of that coin. We have Home Funded, where we are in a process of allowing people to be able to crowdsource their down payment. We have a thing called Up It, which allows you to shop at certain places so that money goes into your down payment account. We have obviously All-in-One that allows you to be able to take your mortgage and have a giant sweep account. What's in your checking accounts gets swept out every single night. And we have 2 or 3 others that are pending, including this deal that we're working on right now. That's, I think, our calling card. We're creative and innovative. I make a joke with the last name George. It's incumbent upon me to be curious. But I also dig the idea of maybe creating a product and a process that benefits the borrower. Not every borrower, but specific borrowers that need a company like ours and guys like you to be able to say, hey, Chris, I got a good idea. Walk me through it, Chris. What does it look like? It's this. Mm-hmm. Okay, I like that idea too. Let's throw some money at that and let's go see what we can do with that. I will admit to you, not all of them work, but a whole bunch of them do. And I think that does distinguish us and makes a difference to our borrowers and our buyers.
One of the reasons I wanted to have you on was so we could show the value proposition to our referral partners. It was like, what makes CMG different? And I think everything you just said really addresses those things, because I don't know a company of 3,500 employees that's willing to take those chances on those other things that you're just talking about, putting a product in place in 5 days. And, we'll dig into Home Funded and All-in-One with our referral partners at some time. But those are all things that no one else is offering out there. And I really do think makes CMG unique. So, Benz, did you have any other thoughts that you want to go before I just kind of keep it going?
I do. Can we talk about the hats before we let Chris go? Chris, we've gotten a lot of laughs about it, man. So when Randy came into my office and he's like, I talked to Chris George and Chris offered up to buy new hats. I just threw my fist up. I'm like, man, this Chris George is all right.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of probably a little ulterior motive here a little bit. I mean, first of all, I've never understood why companies buy stuff and then I'll go into the closet and see 30 boxes of CMG sweatshirts or hats. I'm like, what is all this doing in here? What this is? Give it away. Give it to the kids. I don't care. It's a way to promote the company and provide some form of, I know, I've heard of you guys kind of thing. That's all it is. That's all it is. The other thing you said on the ulterior motive side of it is that you guys talked about the quality of this particular hat. It wasn't just your run-of-the-mill, toss it out type hat. That you're telling me that people really enjoyed wearing them because they were well-made. And I like investing in things that are quality and that tend to stick around a little bit. The stuff, the things that you wear, the swag that we give out, we try to give out things that are going to be sustainable. And so when you were talking about that, I thought, okay, here's an opportunity to promote the company in an area that we're not really all that well known in. Number 2, it's quality. So I like that. And number 3, it sort of solves your problem. Not that I think that having a bunch of old hats that don't have your company name on anymore is going to bankrupt anybody. It's not. But at the same time, what it is going to do is going to allow you to say, listen, we're in this together. I want to participate in your success and I want to help when you need my help.
We do appreciate it. We've gotten some good mileage out of it. It's been a funny thing. I mean, it really was. We've already rehashed it, but just when we found out that the company was being sold and our first thought goes to the hat, it just tells you, how funny it was. Kills us. But yeah, I appreciate that. So we'll get those new hats and, at sometime in the next 12 months, we'll see.
I'll wear it.
Absolutely.
Send me one, and then I'll wear it to the next podcast we do. That would be fun.
I would love it. So before I let you go, when we were talking on the phone, you said, I'm not a sports guy. You said I'm more of a TV and movie guy, right?
Yeah.
Is that true?
I know where we're
That
going.
is true.
Randy.
So what are you watching? I mean, I do a podcast with my brother about movies and TV shows, and me and Chris talk about it all the time. Like, what are you watching? Anything good?
Well, I mean, I just was looking up. I'm kind of across the board from either a fiction thing to a documentary thing. So I can go all the way from a documentary about Bernie Madoff to this deal called the Civil War, which is talking about what happens in the United States when, the country starts breaking apart. California and Texas have decided
That
to
new movie? Yeah.
from the United States. I like going back and looking at some of the stuff that I've watched before and see what I missed from some of those either series and or movies. So things about our industry, like The Inside Job or movies that talk about what happened in 2007, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
There are about 3 or 4 movies if I'm flipping through the channel, and I know this is going to probably get me in trouble, at least label me. I don't think I can get past 1 or 2 movies without stopping and watching them. 2 or 3 that come to mind. Number 1, I love the movie The Birdcage with Robin Williams. That movie is a hilarious movie to me. And Gene Hackman.
He's incredible.
Number 2, I can't get past The Shawshank Redemption. I love that movie as well. I've watched it 200 times. And then my wife thinks I'm crazy when I talk about this, but every time I see Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, I have to watch that movie. I don't know why, but I love that movie as well. And, so I'm all over the road. I like listening to some trivia. I learned yesterday that, and you guys, this will be a good segue to ending because it's a sports kind of movie music deal. I learned yesterday that Tim McGraw is Tug McGraw's son. I did not know that. And Tug McGraw grew up in the hometown where I grew up in Martinez, California. So I did not know they had a strange relationship until they were both adults, and then they kind of repaired their relationship over time. But I did not know that.
Yeah, no kidding. Quick question: are you a Sopranos guy by any chance? Or no?
That's weird because there's like 4 or 5 things I've never watched The Matrix. I've never watched The Godfathers. Haven't watched Sopranos. I know everybody looks at me like, what is wrong with him? But it's so weird. I have these pockets that I'm going back in time and trying to watch them. That's one of them.
So I'm not, but Chris Bedard is a big-time Sopranos guy. So I just wanted to see if you guys had that in common, because basically anytime Chris orders something or puts his name in at a restaurant or anything, it's always under Tony Soprano. So
I'll remember that.
Chris, I have a good doc for you. You were talking about the 2008 area. Panic on HBO. Panic. That's a really good one. They had Rich Paulson in there. They had Bernanke, President Bush. McCain was in it. They were just all talking about how everything looked during that period of time of going to Congress for the money, but also sort of the political climate back then with everybody campaigning. So that was a good one, Panic.
I would love to watch that. That to me, those are things. I mean, those are real life stories, right? And I lived a lot of that. And certainly not at that level, not at the Wall Street, Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns level, but I lived a lot of it from my world. And it's funny sitting there and watching these things and go, oh, okay, now that makes more sense of what was happening to me.
Yep, that is awesome. Listen, I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. I appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much. It was nice to talk with you. Hopefully we can do it again sometime.
We will. I'd be happy. If you want me to come back, I'll come back, and we can talk about anything and everything you want to talk about.
You got it. Awesome. All right, Chris. Thanks again. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me, guys.